I, 32 male, have a younger sister who's 26. She and I are very close. Our dad died weeks after she was born. He had cancer. Our mother and I always had a strained relationship. Dad leveled her out a bit, but once he was gone, she unleashed her uptight, controlling self onto me. She did not believe in children having any downtime. She thought boys should be athletic and do as many physical activities as possible. As a kid, she had me in basketball, football, hockey, karate, and boxing. I had no say in my activities, and my mother expected me to excel at all of them. I was never a kid into sports or athletics in general, so I hated it and I was never very good. It was a point of contention for years. She told me I needed to try harder and that it was important to be masculine and strong. I argued I was doing too much and hated it all. She told me she was my mother and got to say. She had my sister in dance and art classes as a kid. She had as many extracurriculars as me, but the girl-appropriate activities. When I was 16, my mother remarried. Her husband had kids from his first marriage, a toddler and a preschooler at the time. By that point, my mother and I were just holding on until I was 18 and could be out of her hair. That didn't stop her and her husband from trying to pawn his kids off on me under the guise of spending the same time with them as I did with my sister. I wasn't interested. I knew I'd be estranged from my mother once I moved out, so I made no effort. I moved out and kept in touch with my sister. When she graduated high school, she lived with me for a while and again when she finished college. My wife was always cool with this, and they're very close. Last year I walked my sister down the aisle at her wedding. I believe this might have been the turning point with my stepsister. My mother and her family were not invited, but they gate-crashed the ceremony and were thrown out, but not before her stepkids saw that I was walking my sister down the aisle. A few months ago, my stepsister contacted me via Facebook and asked if she could stay with me for the summer before college. I said no. She asked if we could talk more, and I said no. She then found my wife and asked her, and the answer was the same. I saw her at the mall near my house a few weeks ago. She approached me and asked me to speak. I told her I had no time and wasn't interested. She told me it was unfair, that I have more than one sister, and not only did she get to live with me, but I walked her down the aisle. She told me she and her brother deserve better, that spending a few months in my home would be good for sibling bonding. I told her she wasn't my sister, so she couldn't live with me. She became upset and tried to start a scene, but I simply left. She started to give my sister crap about it because I blocked her everywhere. Apparently she thinks I'm an idiot for denying her as my sister. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It sounds like your egg donor and her second husband opened the party line of older brother and sister and kept it going, even though you were never home after turning 18. I feel for your stepsister, but she isn't your responsibility in any way, shape or form. Nothing wrong with the stepsister asking, but she does need to take no for an answer. I feel like the stepsister is desperate to stay with OP, so there's a chance OP's mother went full overbearing monster on them as well once OP and his sister were gone. No idiots here. Your step-siblings are growing up with the same mother you had to, so they might be experiencing some of the same problems and reaching out because they need help in getting away. You're not obliged to, but finding out why they also want to move away could be telling. Yeah, OP owes her nothing, but also, she's clearly desperate to get out of a bad situation, and OP said, "Screw off, I don't care how bad you have it." He's the idiot for that. I'm not sure why he didn't at least talk to her. Tell her living with him isn't an option, but maybe at least open lines of communication. Maybe let her visit for a weekend or something. My boyfriend, 26, and I, 27 female, have been together for 5 years. I earn around $140,000 a year as a QA manager, and he makes $40,000 or $50,000 as a warehouse forklift driver. He's never been into working, and we talked about him being a stay-at-home dad, and I initially agreed because childcare is expensive. We want at least 2 kids. 7 months ago, he lost his job when there was a push for unionization, and some people were essentially bullied out. He was without a job, and I agreed to cover living expenses fully if he did the housework, cooked, etc. Before this, I didn't think of his ability as a stay-at-home dad. In the 7 months, I came home to empty beer bottles and trash on the coffee table. The fridge was constantly empty because he was supposed to go buy groceries but never did, and when he does, it's mostly junk food. We originally agreed he would cook, and he has cooked maybe 4 meals for me. I'm still doing most of the cooking and cleaning. Now I just can't imagine him as a stay-at-home dad. He just sleeps in and barely applies for jobs. He just got one, but that's finally in response to me putting my foot down that I'm no longer supporting him. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and with 4 kids, She still kept a spotless house and cooked every meal from scratch. We've been fighting about this a lot recently, and I've told him if we do have kids, he has to work because he isn't contributing at all now, and so I can't imagine he'll do anything as a stay-at-home dad. He yelled that he had to apply for jobs and he was under a lot of stress. But what's the stress? He has everything taken care of and he barely applies to 1 or 2 jobs a day. He didn't do anything we agreed upon, me taking care of finances, and I don't know how to move forward with the relationship. But am I the idiot for no longer wanting him to be a stay-at-home dad, now that I see what he's been like for the last 7 months? Not the idiot. If you think he's useless now, wait until you have kids. How much help was he unemployed? He'll be even less help when he can also claim he's so tired and stressed, not getting sleep and having to have a job and not be a stay-at-home dad. You'll be working and doing all the child rearing and household work when you're home. Really consider if you want to do this alone with a stump for a husband before having kids. You are the idiot if you have children with this man. If he can't handle normal chores while unemployed, what makes you think he could handle being an involved father? He contributes nothing tangible to your relationship. Children are a lifetime commitment that he's incapable of making. Frankly, you should boot him. But I am wondering if losing his job didn't affect him more than he's letting on. Depression can cause that behavior, and choosing not to work and losing your job are 2 massively different things. Not saying he isn't lazy at home, just offering something to think about. I hope he gets counselling. Girl, get rid of this deadbeat and be glad you didn't marry him. What is he even bringing to the relationship at this point? He's treating you like a parent and acting like a teenager. He's not ready to be a dad. Even if he has depression, don't let that stop you from leaving, as he's not in a spot where he wants to acknowledge it and change for you or himself at all. Update. Thanks for all the comments. I've decided to end the relationship and will tell him this afternoon. This made me realize how resentful and unhappy I am with him, which is unlikely to change. To those who say he probably has depression, he may but has never communicated it, but yes, it could be the reason. But even if he does, I doubt just knowing it will fix my resentment, so it's best we end on semi-friendly terms. I, 20 male, live at home and will graduate college soon. My older sister Sammy, 21, also lives at home. Now, there are 3 house rules that if you break them, our parents have told us they will kick us out. One of them is sneaking people into the house at night. It has a long story behind that rule, but we all know it's a big no in the home. Our parents have cameras to monitor their property, and they rarely check it unless something happens. The garbage cans were knocked over, and so my dad checked the cameras, and Cindy, Sammy's girlfriend, was sneaking out of the house. Sammy isn't out, and everyone assumed it was my guest. I tried to say it wasn't, but they didn't believe me, and my sister kept saying why would she bring a girl over in the night? My parents were talking about giving me a month to move out, and I blew up and showed it was Sammy's girlfriend. I pulled up a picture they had together on Instagram. Parents don't have that, to prove it wasn't me. This resulted in a huge argument with my sister, where she called me an idiot and said that I should take the fall. My parents told her they would talk later, so I'm doubting myself on this. Am I the idiot for outing my sister instead of taking the fall? I may be the idiot since it's something you shouldn't do, even though it was her fault for being caught. You are the idiot for telling your parents it's your sister's girlfriend. If she wasn't out to your parents, you had no right to tell them. You should have found a different way to prove it was your sister's guest, or had a lengthy conversation with your sister about refusing to get kicked out because she made a mistake. You didn't need to be the one to tell your parents that your sister is a lesbian. Not the idiot. Your sister was willing for you to be homeless. For example, she could have owned up to it and taken responsibility without outing herself. Sorry, Mom and Dad, my friend was having some personal issues and needed help and a place to stay the night. I decided to let her stay here because she had nowhere to go. I mean, were they kissing in the photo? People kiss their friends. I agree, a very rare instance of outing someone is acceptable. She was blowing up his life. Hope he doesn't deserve to be kicked out the house because she messed up. She shouldn't have snuck her girlfriend in if she didn't want to get caught. She knew what would happen to her brother and was still willing to make her brother homeless. Sister only has herself to blame. Her idiocy caused this, and her unwillingness to come clean instead of blaming her brother caused her to be outed. If anyone should have lied about who her girlfriend was, it was her sister, who was too busy blaming her brother. Though it's difficult not to think that your parents are idiots for reacting the way they did. I know you said there was an incident that explains it all away, but going from 0 to You have a month to move out because you maybe had a girl over. The same goes for if they gave your sister the same deal. Your sister was an idiot for trying to make you take the fall, but having a girl over really shouldn't be that big of a deal. I, 21 female, live in an apartment with Anne, 19 female. We live in university-style apartments where you're assigned roommates based on compatibility. So I didn't know Anne before she moved in late January while I was gone on a vacation. We've been living together for 6 months now, and she's a decent person and a relatively pleasant roommate most of the time. With that being said, we're friendly, but we're not friends. I've got no issue with her, and I don't think she has any issue with me, but we're just always gone from the apartment when the other is here. She's a student and part-time worker, and I'm a full-time worker, and we don't have much of anything in common. We tried to say we'll hang out and do this or that, but nothing ever materializes. This is a bit rambly, but it will become relevant. A couple of months ago, Anne's boyfriend, John, 20, was feeling poorly. I don't exactly know what happened, but she took him to the ER, and he racked up a couple of grand in medical bills. I understand that the situation wasn't life-threatening, but he needed some treatment and medication. As a student, John couldn't afford to pay the bills, and my roommate set up a GoFundMe for him. She told me about it, shared it with me, and I shared it on my social media pages to help spread the word for her and potentially get her some more donors. Apparently that wasn't good enough. Anne came up to me a couple of days ago talking about her and John doing something and led it into the subject of his ER visit and med bills. She told me she noticed that my name wasn't among the donors to his GFM and said if I was saving up for a bigger donation it would be better just to split it up and donate part now because John is trying to make a payment before the end of the month. It got really awkward, and I told her I wasn't saving to donate because I was trying to put all my funds together in preparation for moving across the country next week. I need my money for the trip and to tide me over until I secure work. Anne got angry, to say the least. She said I was selfish and had no empathy if I wouldn't even donate $20 to her boyfriend's debt. She said if I could afford to pay my last 3 months' rent at once, I could afford to spare some money for his bills that he can't afford and that he's poorer than me right now, so I need to help him. Honestly, I like helping people when I'm in the position to, but I'm not. On top of that, I only somewhat know Anne and barely know John, and half of what I've heard about him frankly isn't good, including how Anne has been contemplating for a month or so about dumping him. I have no clue if I'm being an idiot or not. Am I? Not the idiot. What kind of country puts a 20-something in debt over ensuring he wasn't dying? Barbaric. You're not required to pay for an unknown stranger's debt. It's a shame how expensive United States healthcare is, but that's also not your fault. Your roommate is an idiot for trying to manipulate you into giving her boyfriend money. Why doesn't John contact medical billing with the hospital to complete student income paperwork? Most of his debt would probably be waived away. Most universities in the US offer healthcare. I wonder why he didn't look into that. Also, kids can stay on their parents' insurance until they turn 26, if the parent carried them. But besides that, OP has no obligation to deal with another person's debt if he doesn't want to. Spoiler alert, the money isn't for medical bills. I worked in medical billing and he could get financial assistance from the hospital, and as far as GFM, they don't even pay out for 2 or 3 weeks after the closing date of it. It sounds like a very good thing she'll be moving across the country soon. Roomie and boyfriend sound like they would be drama. I was at an observation deck yesterday. It's one of those that has a glass floor as part of it. The guy was there trying to get his wife and kid to go on the glass floor so he could take a picture. The kid looked about 3 and terrified. His wife wasn't interested either. When she went to the bathroom, he picked up his kid and went on the glass floor. The kid was frozen stiff and looked pale as a ghost. The dad got his selfie though. When he walked by me, I was telling my boyfriend that if we got married and had kids and he did something so idiotic and traumatizing to our kids, I'd be angry. The guy overheard me and said I should mind my own business. I said I wasn't talking to him, but I did repeat myself and say that he was an idiot for putting his child in such a scary place when the kid didn't want to be there. By this time, his wife had come out and heard us arguing. Then she got angry at him for doing this against their kid's obvious desire. We walked away, but my boyfriend said I shouldn't have started crap with some random guy terrorizing his kid. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. He interrupted a conversation you were having with your boyfriend. He chose to bring you into the situation, so you had the right to defend yourself on what you said in a private conversation. The guy was being a selfish idiot. Maybe you weren't the best source to hear it from, but he needed to hear it nonetheless. I believe the kid needs to hear it too. I mean, I agree OP isn't the idiot, but this reasoning is so dumb, LMAO. If you have a conversation about someone else who is within earshot, they definitely have the right to respond. OP absolutely started the altercation by talking about the dad where he can overhear. Again, I think doing this is totally justified in this situation, but let's not act like OP was minding their own business, lol. You are the idiot. As a bystander stranger in public, you're a lot less qualified to judge how this impacts that kid than the dad is. He knows the kid's personality, expressions, ways of communicating, and how they've reacted in the past to being put outside their comfort zone. So you need some humility that your gut reaction about what this experience was like for the kid may very well be wrong, and the dad may be more qualified to know. Meanwhile, your behavior seems idiotic. You just happened to badmouth this guy within earshot rather than waiting until he was gone or talking quieter. Then, when of course he hears you, you write him off that you weren't talking to him, which is doubtful if you said it so he could hear it. You weren't just talking to your boyfriend, you wanted this guy to hear, and you wanted his reaction. It just seems all about making yourself feel good based on confrontation.